Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Shishma Singh. Let us start discussion on Chapter 2, Social Change and Social Order in Rural and Urban Society. And our topic is Social Order and Social Change in Urban Areas. It is well known that though the city itself is very old, even ancient societies had them. Urbanism as a way of life for large segments of the population is a modern phenomenon. Before the modern era, trade, religion, and warfare were some of the major factors that decided the location and importance of cities. Cities that were located on major trade routes or had suitable harbors and ports had a natural advantage. So did cities that were well located from the point of view of military strategy. Finally, religious places attracted large number of pilgrims and thus supported an urban economy. In India too, we have examples of such old cities, including the well-known medieval trading towns of Tezpur on the Brahmaputra River in Assam or Kozhikode, formerly known as Calicut, on the Arabian Sea in northern Kerala. We also have many examples of temple towns and places of religious pilgrimage, such as Ajmer in Rajasthan, Varanasi, also known as Banaras or Kashi, in Uttar Pradesh, or Madurai in Tamil Nadu. As sociologists have pointed out, city life and modernity go very well together. In fact, each may be considered an intimate expression of the other. Though it houses large and very dense population, and though it has been known throughout history as the site for mass politics, the city is also the domain of the modern individual. In its combination of anonymity and the amenities and institutions that only large numbers can support, the city offers the individuals boundless possibilities for fulfillment. Unlike the village, which discourages individuality and cannot offer much, the city nurtures the individuals. But while the many artists, writers, and scholars who have celebrated the city as the heaven of the individual are not wrong, it is also true that freedom and opportunity are available only to some individuals. More accurately, only a socially and economically privileged minority can have the luxury of the predominantly free and fulfilling life. Most people who live in cities have only limited and relative freedoms within larger constraints. These are the familiar economic and social constraints imposed by the membership in social group of various kinds, already known to you from the previous chapter. The city too fosters the development of group identities based on factors like race, religion, ethnicity, caste, region, and of course class, which are all well represented in urban life. In fact, the concentrations of large numbers in a relatively small space intensifies identities and makes them integral to strategies of survival, resistance, and assertion. Most of the important issues and problems of social order in towns and cities are related to the question of space. High population density places a great premium on space and creates very complex problems of logistics. It is the primary task of the urban social order to ensure the spatial viability of the city. This means the organization and management of things like housing and residential patterns, mass transit systems for transporting large number of workers to and fro for work, arranging for the coexistence of residential, public and industrial land use zones, and finally all the public health, sanitation, policing, public safety and monitoring needs of urban governance. Each of these functions is a huge undertaking in itself and presents formidable challenges of planning, implementation, and maintenance. What adds to the complexity is that all these tasks have to be performed in a context where the divisions and tensions of class, ethnicity, religion, caste, and so on are also present and active. For example, the question of urban housing brings with it a whole host of problems. Shortage of housing for the poor leads to homelessness and the phenomena of street people, those who have live and survive on streets and footpaths, under bridges and flyovers, abandoned buildings, and other empty spaces. It is also the leading cause for the emergence of slums. Though the official definitions vary, a slum is a congested, overcrowded neighborhood with no proper civic facilities, sanitation, water supply, electricity, and so on, and homes made of all kinds of building materials, ranging from plastic sheets and cardboard to multi storied concrete structures. Because of the absence of the settled property rights of the kind seen elsewhere, slums are the natural breeding ground for dadas and strongmen who impose their authority on the people who live there. Control over slum territory becomes the natural stepping stone to other kinds of extra legal activities, including criminal and real estate related gangs. Where and how people will live in cities is a question that is also filtered through socio cultural identities. Residential areas in cities all over the world are almost always segregated by class and often also by race, ethnicity, religion, and other such variables. Tensions between such identities both cause these segregation patterns and are also a consequence. For example, in India, communal tensions between religious communities, most commonly Hindus and Muslims, results in the conversion of mixed neighborhoods into single community ones. This in turn gives a specific spatial pattern to communal violence whenever it erupts, which again furthers the ghettoization process. This has happened in many cities in India, most recently in Gujarat following the riots of 2002. The worldwide phenomena of gated communities is also found in Indian cities. This refers to the creation of affluent neighborhoods that are separated from their surroundings by the walls and gates with controlled entry and exit. Most such communities also have their own parallel civic facilities such as water and electricity supply. policing, and security. Finally, housing patterns are linked to the economy of the city in crucial ways. The urban transport system is directly and severely affected by the location of residential areas relative to industrial and commercial workplaces. If these are far apart, as is often the case, an elaborate mass transit system must be created and maintained. Commuting becomes a way of life and an ever present source of possible disruption. The transport system has a direct impact on the quality of life of working people in the city. Reliance on the road transport and especially on private rather than public modes, that is, cars rather than buses, creates problems of traffic congestion and vehicular pollution. As will be clear to you from the above discussion, the apparently simple issue of distribution of living space is actually a very complex and multidimensional aspect of urban society. The form and content of social change in urban areas is also best understood in relation to the central question of space. One very visible element of change is the ups and downs experienced by particular neighborhoods and localities. Across the world, the city center or the core areas of the original city has had many changes of fortune. After being the power center of city in the 19th and early 20th century, the city center went through a period of decline in the later half of the 20th century. This was also the period of growth of suburbs as the affluent classes deserted the inner city for the suburbs for a variety of reasons. City centers are experiencing a revival now in many major Western cities as attempts to regenerate community life and the arts bear fruits. A related phenomena is gentrification, which refers to the conversion of a previously local class neighborhood into a middle and upper class one. As real estate prices rise, it becomes more and more profitable for developers to try and effect such a conversion. At some point, the campaign becomes self fulfilling as rental values increase and the locality acquires a critical minimum of prosperous businesses and residents. But sometimes the effort may fail and the neighborhood goes back down the class scale and returns to its previous status. Changes in modes of mass transport may also bring about significant social change in cities. Affordable, efficient, and safe public transport makes a huge difference to city life and can shape the social character of a city apart from influencing its economic fortunes. Many scholars have written on the difference between the cities based on public transport like London or New York and cities that depend mainly on individualized car based transport like Los Angeles. It remains to be seen, for example, whether the new metro rail in Delhi will significantly change social life in that city. But the main issue regarding social change in cities, especially in rapidly urbanizing countries like India, is how the city will cope with constant increase in population as migrants keep streaming into the add to its natural growth. Now let us wind up the session, and we have come to the end of the chapter. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the Self Learning podcast.